So, how important is your identity to you?
My identity, or my identities, I think in some ways I think of, various aspects of my personality and my background as identities, are very important to me. I think there are certain occasions and contexts where I'm more aware, more explicitly of this is who I am in this scenario or in this context. But I think so much of the time it's just that sort of backdrop in my brain that, I might not realize that I'm processing information and new experiences and new people I meet through all of these filters of my identities, but that's always there. I think that I'm always carrying that with me.
Was there a time when you discovered yourself?
I'm still waiting for that to happen. No, I'm kidding. I do think though that self-discovery, at least in my humble opinion, is an ongoing, evolving process through life. Years back, when I was in college and just out of college, I think at that time in my life, in my early 20s, and I don't think it's unusual for folks in our country to feel this way. It's almost like now you better know who you are and what it is you're going to do forever and ever and ever. And I can say, in all of the years since then, sometimes it seems like every few years there's something new that I'm discovering about myself or rediscovering. For example, with poetry, it's something that I used to do a lot of in my younger days, and I sort of left it off for years and years and thought, well, I must be done with that now, and didn't expect it to sort of resurface in my life.
Are there any experiences that you would say have shaped you to be who you are?
Probably every experience, but if you're looking for like some of the big landmark ones, one experience that happened before, it's not my own personal experience, but my parents immigrating here from Sri Lanka in the early 70s, before I was born, I think has shaped me remarkably, just having these two folks as my parents. So growing up in a way where I knew that being in the United States was new for my family, and knowing that there were specific reasons that they wanted to come here and to leave Sri Lanka at that time, certainly shaped me, just in terms of all of the questions around identity and around culture that gave me as a young person, and to have these two people to try and help navigate the sort of living between two cultures or being told, this is our culture, and having to turn back to them and say, my culture is a lot of things. So I think that's one experience. Another very, impactful experience for me was in my early 20s when I went to Sri Lanka to work for a nonprofit human rights organization. When I was there, my boss was assassinated, and I was 23 at the time. And so I certainly knew who I was working for. I knew that he faced these threats on a regular basis because of the work he was doing. But it was just, you can't be prepared for something like that. I feel like that probably still continues to shape me even all of these years later. Again, without my necessarily always being so cognizant of that fact.
How do you communicate yourself and your identity to other people?
Well, poetry is definitely one of those tools for me. Poetry, music, any sort of creative outlet. And I think the beauty part of communicating our identities through creative outlets is sometimes it affords us a way to start a conversation, start a dialogue in a way that's not maybe so kind of intense and harsh as it might come across if we had a dialogue about the same thing, in thin air, in some other context. So I certainly think that my art is probably a primary way that I express my identity. And I would like to think that I also do so just in, conversation and discussion with folks. But I also think it's good to be mindful of that and, revisit those things every now and again as well.
What's one thing that most people don't know about you that you would like them to?
One thing that people don't know about me. I wish I could think of something really interesting, but I can't. So I'm just going to say I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. So I do like to answer the question, where are you from, with Connecticut, before I get to the bigger answer.
Okay.
Thank you.